The voice of God in the shepherd of Hermas. Similitudes. Third book, Similitudes. First similitude. As in this world we have no abiding city, we ought to seek one to come. He says to me, you know that you who are the servants of God dwell in a strange land, for your city is far away from this one. If then, he continues, you know your city in which you are to dwell, why do ye here provide lands and make expensive preparations and accumulate dwellings and useless buildings? He who makes such preparations for this city cannot return again to his own. O foolish and unstable and miserable man, dost thou not understand that all these things belong to another and are under the power of another? For the Lord of this city will say, I do not wish thee to dwell in my city, but depart from this city, because thou obeyest not my laws. Thou therefore, although having fields and houses and many other things, when cast out by him, what wilt thou do with thy land and thy house and thy other possessions which thou hast gathered to thyself? For the Lord of this country justly says to thee, either obey my laws or depart from my dominion. What then dost thou intend to do, having a law in thine own city on account of thy lands and the rest of thine possessions? Thou shalt altogether deny thy law and walk according to the law of this city. See lest it be to thy hurt to deny thy law, for if thou shalt desire to return to thy city, thou wilt not be received, because thou hast denied the law of thy city, but wilt be excluded from it. Have a care, therefore, as one living in a foreign land, make no further preparations for thyself than such merely as may be sufficient, and be ready when the master of this city shall come to cast thee out for disobeying his law, to leave his city and to depart to thine own, and to obey thine own law without being exposed to annoyance, but in great joy. Have a care then, ye who serve the Lord, and have him in your heart, that ye work the works of God, remembering his commandments and promises which he promised, and believe that he will bring them to pass if his commandments be observed. Instead of lands, therefore, buy afflicted souls, according to each one his able, and visit widows and orphans, and do not overlook them, and spend your wealth and all your preparations which you received from the Lord upon such lands and houses. For to this end did the Master make you rich, that you might perform these services unto him. And it is much better to purchase such lands and possessions and houses as you will find in your own city when you come to reside in it. This is a noble and sacred expenditure, attending neither with sorrow nor fear, but with joy. Do not practice the expenditure of the heathen, for it is injurious to you who are the servants of God, but practice an expenditure of your own in which ye can rejoice, and do not corrupt nor touch what is another's, nor covet it, for it is an evil thing to covet the goods of other men. But work thine own work, and thou wilt be saved. Second similitude. As the vine is supported by the elm, so is the rich man's helper by the prayer of the poor. As I was walking in the field, and observed an elm and vine, and determined in my own mind respecting them and their fruits, the shepherd appears to me and says, What is it that you are thinking about the elm and vine? I am considering, I reply, that they become each other exceedingly well. These two trees, he continued, are intended as an example for the servants of God. For I would like to know, said I, the example which these trees say you are intended to teach. Do you see, he says, the elm and the vine? I see them, sir, I replied. This vine, he continues, produced fruit, and the elm is an unfruitful tree. But unless the vine be trained upon the elm, it cannot bear much fruit when extending at length upon the ground, and the fruit which it does bear is rotten, because the plant is not suspended upon the elm. When therefore the vine is cast upon the elm, it yields fruit both for itself and from the elm. You see moreover that the elm also produces much fruit, not less than the vine, but even more, because, he continued, the vine, when suspended upon the elm, yields much fruit and good, but when thrown upon the ground, what it produces is small and rotten. This similitude, therefore, is for the servants of God, for the poor man and for the rich. How so, sir? Said I. Explain the matter to me. Listen, he said. The rich man has much wealth, but is poor in matters relating to the Lord, because he is distracted about his riches. And he offers very few confessions and intercessions to the Lord, and those which he does offer are small and weak, and have no power above. But when the rich man refreshes the poor and assists him in his necessities, believing that what he does to the poor man will be able to find his reward with God, because the poor man is rich in intercession and confession, and his intercession has great power with God, then the rich man helps the poor in all things without hesitation, and the poor man, being helped by the rich, intercedes for him, giving thanks to God for him who bestows gifts upon him. And he still continues to interest himself zealously for the poor man, that his wants may be constantly supplied, for he knows that the intercession of the poor man is acceptable and influential with God. Both accordingly accomplish their work. The poor man makes intercession, a work in which he is rich, which he received from the Lord, and with which he recompenses the master who helps him. And the rich man, in like manner, unhesitatingly bestows upon the poor man the riches which he received from the Lord, and is a great work, and acceptable before God, because he understands the object of his wealth, and has given to the poor of the gifts of the Lord, and rightly discharges the service to him. Among men, however, the elm appears not to produce fruit, and they do not know nor understand that if a drought come, the elm, which contains water, nourishes the vine, and the vine, having an unfailing supply of water, yields double fruit both for itself and for the elm. So also poor men, interceding with the Lord on behalf of the rich, increase their riches, and the rich again, aiding the poor in their necessities, satisfy their souls. Both therefore are partners in the righteous work. He who does these things shall not be deserted by God, but shall be enrolled in the books of the living. Blessed are they who have riches, and who understand that they are from the Lord, for they who are of that mind will be able to do some good.